Okay, welcome everybody to yet another episode of the It Starts With You podcast. And my guest today is someone I met on a networking meeting online, of course, because that's where everything happens these days. And we kind of just hit it off a little bit. I've been on her podcast. I love this woman's sense of humor, how she shows up on the online space, and just what she shares. And I really just wanted to get her on the podcast and talk about her relationship with herself, her business, her clients, and see what we can eke out of that. And hopefully some of it will be inspiring to you. Maybe you'll get a couple of golden nuggets to take away and implement in your life. So today's guest is Siobhan Fox. Good day. I was going to say good morning, good afternoon. I couldn't remember what it was. Good day.
and a good day to you.
And good day to you, Sal.
Thank you so much for having me on.
You're very, very welcome. Thanks for agreeing to come on. It's lovely to have you here. Rather than me introduce you and say all of the wonderful things that you do and you've done, I always ask my guests to do that. So who is Siobhan Fox? What do you do? And etc., etc.
Who is Siobhan Fox? Great question. Changes on a daily basis.
Yeah, for all of us.
So I am a business owner. I'm a mum to a very nearly 5-year-old. I was a cat mum, but my cat died this year. So I'm a recovering, grieving cat mum looking for the next four-legged furry friend, hopefully next year.
Okay.
I live in Winchester in Hampshire, which is like living in paradise, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's nice there.
And what else? I swim in the river in Winchester. We're very lucky to have lovely chalk rivers here, nice and clean to swim in.
I've seen some of those crazy pictures of you doing
game changer.
No,
absolute game changer. I used to watch the news on New Year's Day and see all those batty women getting in the sea. You know, there's always a segment on New Year's Day, and think you're all nuts. And then I've become one of those people, and I stand on the other side of the fence, going, "Oh, I get it now. It keeps me sane."
Did that? Can I just ask? Did that happen during lockdown? Was that something you started then?
My friend started during lockdown, and then it was about 3 months of her just going, "Get in the river, Siobhan. You should get in the river. Get in the river. You should probably get in the river. Why don't we get in the river?" And then eventually, I was like, "Oh, fine, I'll get in the fucking river then." And then never looked back. What else? Discovered the highly sensitive personality type a couple of years ago, which was like just discovering my user manual. And then this year, the main discovery has been having an ADHD brain, which is the other section of the user manual. And between the two, I feel like I get it now. I get why I do things the way I do, why my brain works the way it does, why it never shuts up, other than when I get in the river. I think for me, becoming a mum and owning a business have been the two biggest sort of self-discovery journeys I've been on in recent years that have just helped me make sense of a bunch of stuff and I think get to a place where I'm a lot calmer, happier, more resilient person, which is always nice.
Well, it is, isn't it? Because it's probably, three things that most of us want. We definitely want to be calm and happy, that's for sure. So, and those are the things that, certainly in my world, that most people are seeking. And
exactly.
And this whole series of recent episodes on the podcast has been all about relationships. That's what drove me to start doing these chats and conversations, and obviously realizing that the biggest relationship we have, the longest one we have, the greatest asset we have is ourselves, and how people navigate their own personal relationships with themselves and how that then impacts what they do, whether there's their job or their partner or their families and their kids even. And obviously your business is thriving. You're a business mentor, so how you show up for your clients is super important. You're a mum to a 5-year-old. How you show up for your child, super important, and your partner as well. So but if your relationship with yourself is a bit of a shit show, then all of that is going to be a struggle. I know that for myself and in my business, and just through client work as well. So crazy cat lady, I think I might call this episode.
Yeah.
Crazy river swimming cat lady.
Accurate.
Tell me about, where should we start? I think let's go straight to the ADHD. I had my friend Amy Polly on, and she's got an ADHD diagnosis. And there is a lot of talk about neurodiversity now on social media and just in life, and how we show up in the world. And how has that been for you? What's the process been? Because I had the same kind of conversation with Amy, actually. It's like, did you always feel like there was something not quite right, you felt different, how you functioned, how your brain worked? Or how did that all come about for you, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt like an outsider. I've always felt like there's something wrong with me. Used to have that weird fantasy that everyone else in the world were robots and I was the only human.
Wow.
In my early teens. Yeah, just or that, worried that maybe I was adopted. I just always had a sense that like everyone else was one way and I was a different way. And I just spent my life trying to fit in with groups of people or situations and just failing miserably and being deeply unhappy. I spent most of my teens like suicidal, basically, just racked with hormones, and had family stuff going on, which didn't help. But yeah, just nothing ever, I never fitted in anywhere. I never felt at home or comfortable. And then I think it probably wasn't until my late 20s I hopped from a client side marketing role to an agency, which was a big risk and a total blag on my part. And I met people who openly talked about having anxiety and taking medication and going to counselling and therapy. And I'd never met people who spoke about that. And it was suddenly became okay, which was, yeah, I think probably the beginning of it. And then a sort of very slow increase of awareness, big breakdown when I had my little one, had really crushing anxiety with him.
Yeah.
And then he was also a very screamy baby, which didn't help. And then went back to work and then had like a proper emotional breakdown, then crashed out, like proper burnout. And then just had to start a business whilst experiencing crushing anxiety, which actually I think kind of helped me. And then, you make a tiny human being and you're basically making a small version of yourself, but you make a business and you're basically making a version of yourself. So all these two mirrors did was reflect back all the shit that I needed to sort out.
Yeah.
And then I think it was Janet Murray shared her diagnosis during lockdown 2020. And I'd been following her. She's great content strategist and creator. And I read her story, I read the traits, and I went, "Oh, sounds a bit like me." And then a friend of mine sent it to me and went, "Ha, this is us." Thought no more of it. And then it was just a cumulative thing, someone sharing their story over here, someone sharing their story over there. And then this conversation with my friend, who also has an ADHD brain, we now know, just it became less this might be us, and more like, oh shit, I think this might be us.
Right.
And then it was just educating myself. I spoke to an ADHD coach earlier in the year and she said read Hallowell and Ratey's book ADHD 2.0, and that I read it and I went, oh yeah, okay. And that was a real massive education piece. And now I just follow loads of accounts and coaches and content creators who talk about it, and it just every day I'm educating myself on how my brain works and what helps me, what doesn't, how to work with this exceptional ability to do things at the last minute rather than against it, and set myself up for success, but crucially just stop beating myself up for the way I am. And I think, and now I've just found all these people who think like me and have brains like me, and I feel part of something, and I don't care if everyone's one way and I'm different. It doesn't matter. We're all different, I don't feel like an outsider anymore. So yeah, it's been a real game changer for my life and my day-to-day experience of being a human being. But I think there are a lot of myths that surround it. And reading that book, it just made me realize I've had in my head a hyperactive 6-year-old boy, and that's not what this is at all.
Mm.
Yeah. I also read an article a while ago that said that genetically it benefited human beings to have people with ADHD brains because which makes sense. You don't want your human population to be all similar, do you? It benefits us if we all think differently. So like my high sensitivity, I'd be on alert hearing the tribe 2 counties over through the earth before someone else did, picking up on people's behavior,
Yeah.
you know, doing well under pressure, doing things at the last minute. So yeah, I do think there's a reason we're all wired differently, and I think we're only on the cusp of figuring out what that really looks like. I
Yeah.
think in 20 years, labels like ADHD and dyslexia and autism will be completely outdated and will be replaced with something that explains humanity in a much better and clearer way. I
Yeah.
think we've only scratched the surface so far.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a really long-winded answer to your
I love
question.
long-winded
But
answers.
if you ask an ADHDer to talk about ADHD, like good luck, you'll be there for a while.
Well, I've asked a few. One of my kids is autistic, so I've got an autistic child, but that presents very, very differently. And like everything, there's a spectrum as well. So, but I've got a couple of friends that, have ADHD diagnosis, and like I said, Amy being one of them, and she's been on here. And it's funny you said about the anxiety about having your child. Like I know she suffered really badly as well. With Jackson, her child, like giving birth, the anxiety that came with that was quite extreme for her. So that's something she's really had to work through and work on, and manage, which and she's gone on to help a lot of people actually, now that she's worked her way through that and continues to do so, she's now helping other people, and obviously you will, and you do, and I know that you do already. But how is that, like, your relate, because like it sounds like before you were beating yourself up quite a bit by the sounds of it, so your relationship with yourself maybe not have been the best, obviously, as a teenager, like I said, suicidal thoughts and things like that. How has this level of understanding that you've now got, that your brain works in this way, has it massively changed your relationship that you have with yourself, and how you function? I know it, how you function, yes, obviously, but that relationship that you have with yourself.
Yeah, massively. And I know it sounds really cheesy, but it is about learning to love yourself, warts and all, and speak kindly to yourself, speak well of yourself. I'm really learning that. I'm watching my little boy just trash talk himself already, and I'm like,
God, he's 5.
you're like, well, how are you? And I'm like, oh, because this is how we're wired. We're wired to the negative.
Yeah.
And he's very sensitive, and he sets really high standards for himself. So when he struggles to do, and he does pick things up quickly. So if anything is a challenge, he's like, oh, can't do it, and gets really upset. And I'm like, okay, but how could you speak differently to yourself? I can't do it yet, you know. And then I think, God, no one taught me this shit, you know.
Yeah.
I'm now through coaching him, I'm picking it up as I go along, going, well, I could probably speak better. It's those little flippant comments. You're talking about something, and I don't know, a friend says oh, I'm starting tennis lessons, and you go, oh, that's cool. I was always rubbish at school
Yeah.
at sport.
Yeah.
And it's a flippant comment, and then you come back to it later and you go, how awful is that
Yeah.
I just trash talked myself like that? And
Yeah.
you go, there's a different way. I really focus on how those words might make someone else laugh, but I don't realize that I'm also hearing those words. And
Yeah.
there's a little, 7 or 8-year-old stuck on the side of the tennis court in my brain going, never going to be any good at this.
Yeah.
What's the point of trying? And I just think, yeah, it's really made me conscious of how I talk to myself. And I just think emotionally as well, I was always so up and down, so at the mercy of my emotions, just on this riding the high seas all the time. And now I'm able to kind of go, all right, the emotion arrives. What is it? Feel it, feel uncomfortable, let it out, and then, see if there's anything to be learned from it and just let it go and move on.
Mm.
And again, no one ever taught me how to do that. I've had to teach myself how to do that. But
Mm.
that does improve your relationship with yourself because you're able to be more compassionate and accepting, give yourself permission to feel things.
Mm.
Like I've always been very passionate that to say to my son, especially as a boy, it's okay to cry. In fact, it's really good to cry.
Mm.
And then I think, again, no one told me that. Child of the 80s, with sort of roaring feminism going on. It
Yeah.
was boys don't cry, but girls don't cry either. And actually, I really notice now, I go, oh, I feel like I need a cry, but I can't access it.
Wow.
My son can feel he needs to cry and just cry and get it out and move on.
Wow.
And I have to find a trigger. I'll have to watch like Pet Rescue or something to get it out. Or
Yeah.
it'll come out through something really strange later on, like when the teacher said to me when I picked my son up from school the other day, well, Vinny's been a bit handsy today, not kind with his hands. And something about a teacher telling me off, I cried. And I was like, why am I crying so much? And I went, oh, because it's not about this situation. It's like the 4 other things that you've stored
Yeah.
up from earlier.
Exactly that. And I love that. It's I'm a child. I'm older than you, obviously. So no one cried. Like it's not boys don't cry and girls, well, try not to cry. But it was like nobody cries. Like that was how I
Yeah.
was brought up. We don't do crying. And I, like you, have had to learn and understand, that what a great release that is. And I do breath work and I use that in my coaching and stuff. And the amount of people that cry in breath work is unbelievable, and try, being able to access that release of emotion, because it all gets stuck and gets trapped, like you say. You cry
Yeah.
about this, but it's not about that. It's about the 45 things that you've been pushing away and pushing down and
Yeah.
pushing down, and that need to come out and up and out. And for me, I access it through, a lot of it comes through music. I get very emotive,
Oh, yeah.
either
Yeah.
dancing around like an absolute loon at a rave in my lounge on my own, or I'm crying on the
Oh,
sofa. And so that's how I kind of access it for myself. So music's
I think it's the reason I don't listen to sad music. But do you know Nicole Lecky?
no.
She wrote this incredible series on the BBC about sex workers, but she wrote all the music. It's like a modern day musical. But
Yeah.
I'm a little bit in love with her. She's amazing.
What's the program
And
called?
um,
I'll have to look it up if not. Just
it'll come to me.
okay.
It'll come to me. Bit of perimenopause going on there. And and you can listen to all the songs on Spotify, and they're all great songs on their own, but when you put them against the context of the show, they're quite dark.
Okay.
So it's like a really fun poppy sort of song, but it's
Yeah.
actually about people paying her online to
Oh,
like look at her tits and stuff. Like it's dark. I love
yeah.
dark stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the songs is when she leaves home, um, because there's a stepdad and a half brother, and she just feels cast out. And
Yeah.
some of it she's doing to herself. There's this song, and she sings, "I'm nobody's favorite." And I'm like, oh, I love that series. I'll stick that album on Spotify. Most of the songs, there's a bit of hip hop in there. And
Yeah.
then this song came on, I'm nobody's favorite. And I was just like choking sobs
Yeah.
because it just spoke to the depths of that loneliness of being late teens, misunderstood, not having someone in your life that cares for you or looks out for you. Oh my God. So
Wow.
yeah, I know that song's there anytime I need to access a cry.
Yeah, exactly. I think the message to anyone listening is, you need to find your thing that helps you access the release of that emotion, those emotions. And
Absolutely.
breathwork's a great way, but music and
Oh,
whatever.
music is,
Watching
yeah.
about animals being mistreated. I can't watch animals I can't watch animals. Well, I can't watch animals mating. That's one thing I can't watch. I hate that. We've gone off on a tangent here. I can't watch animals being chased by other animals to be killed. Like, no, can't do that. Or any human hurting an animal. I can't watch that
No,
either.
I made that mistake. I was getting sick of watching like crappy videos on YouTube. So one weekend I said, right, as a family, we're going to sit down and watch a nice, relaxing wildlife documentary. And then it happened to be the latest David Attenborough one with the killer whales coordinating to flip seals off sheets of ice.
Oh,
Really clever.
clever, but oh.
And of course, yeah, at some point they eat the seal, and then I'm looking at my little one, he bursts into tears, and I'm like, oh shit, I'd forgotten how brutal wildlife documentaries can
Yeah, I
be.
don't watch any David Attenborough. I don't care that he's the national treasure. I can't watch it. Like animals.
Yeah, it was really
Whatever.
sad.
Yeah, yeah. But it's, I guess, if you want to access a cry and some emotion, maybe.
Yeah, it's all there for the taking. And equally the other way round, right? I realized I really love a bit of drum and bass, and I'd left Spotify to go off on a meandering tangent,
Right.
and this song came on and all my hair stood on end. I was like, oh, this is a tune. And I realized I was getting a huge hit of dopamine, which is an ADHD thing,
Yeah.
but that we lack. And I made a whole playlist of tunes that make me feel that way, so that whenever I need that hit, and I've called it dopamine fix.
Love
And
it.
when I know I need a hit, I need a bit of an uplift, I need a mood change, I stick that on and make my like
Does the job.
kind of face. And yeah.
So tell me about that dopamine hit then, and ADHD, because obviously, well, not obviously, but I don't understand that, and maybe somebody listening might not understand that. Maybe somebody listening might feel like, yeah, they need to kind of
It
maybe
is the single biggest thing that has like that I've not known has categorized my life.
right.
Is my life has been one long hunt for dopamine. So the reason I racked up 30 grand's worth of personal debt twice. The reason I, took risks, stayed out late, could never quit it with drinking, and would just always have one more. I'd be that person. You're all shit faced. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and I come back with a tray of shots.
Yeah.
Let's go on somewhere else. I've just never had an off button.
Right.
And like chocolate, alcohol, used to be weed in my 20s. And like with jobs, why I'm either flying high or I'm absolutely crashing. I went from having my probation extended to getting promoted in like the space of 6 months. Who does that? What is that? And just this constant seeking for something that's gonna, like impulsive spending. And now I look back at it and I go, oh, that's what you were doing. And now it doesn't mean I still don't do it, but I try to give myself that dopamine in healthy ways. So like river swimming for me is a huge way to do that. I get a huge hit, but it's good for me. I cut out drinking this year, replaced it with Trip drinks, the CBD oil. So like not the same, but sort of relaxing. But just the fizzy drink. I think I get a bit of dopamine just from having a fizzy drink in a nice can, and trying to get outside more, listening to music. So instead of getting it from the unhealthy places, I try to. I mean, I've still got a huge chocolate problem. I'm actually going to do a sugar detox in the new year because it's getting out of hand.
Do you like? I get all of that, and that's great that you've now swapped all of those, or you're in the process of sort of managing that and swapping some unhealthy habits out to try and get your hit in other ways. But for me, I was sitting here listening to you talk about that. I was thinking, but do we not live in a bit of a culture where we're all seeking a dopamine hit? Like we all, we're the culture that we live in. Like this is how the wheels of our economy fucking run. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We need, we're sold shit all the time, and you need this to be happy. You need that to feel good. You know what I mean? It's like McDonald's Happy Meal. The fuck, it's. Do you know what I mean? It's like
they should call it the slight disappointment meal, because
yes.
whenever I get one for my son, he eats the food, but he looks at the toy and he's basically like, oh, this wasn't what I was expecting.
I get the food and I'm disappointed. I'm like, it's lukewarm. It's not really what I wanted. I don't know what I wanted. I thought I was going to get all excited. I get all excited and then I'm like, no, I very rarely have it. But anyway.
But I think that's something about the instant gratification, isn't it? And I think we're too comfortable. We live in these, warm, cozy houses. You can realize you need a new light bulb and get one delivered in an hour.
Yep.
You can get whatever you need, whatever you want, so fast that. And I think, it's something we try to teach children, isn't it? There's a whole thing about delayed gratification. You can't have a chocolate now, but you can have it later. And I do that a bit with my son. It's like, when do I ever do that for myself? If I want something, I'll go and get it. If I want a coffee, I've got a bean to cup machine in my kitchen. If I want a coffee, there's still a part of me that's like, oh, but I'll go and get a Costa. What's that about?
I do that. I've got a pod machine. I love my pod machine. Me having a coffee, I do it mindfully. I don't do anything else. I love the sound of the pods going in and then the smell. But there is still a part of me sometimes like, oh yeah, I'll go. I've got a pop here. I'm going to go and get a Costa, or I'm going to go to the nice little cafe down the road and get one of their nice takeaway coffees. And sometimes I have to go, no, you've got a coffee machine at home with a cupboard full of pods. You don't
Yeah.
need to do that,
but we're too comfortable, aren't we? Like,
yeah.
and I think that's one of the reasons that our mental and physical health is so poor. We're supposed to feel the seasons. We're supposed to feel uncomfortable. Every time I get in the river, it's like this thing that resonates out of me where my body goes, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's why all of our towns and cities are around rivers and streams and the sea. We would have been in and out of cold water all of the time, washing, bathing, playing. Like, we are supposed to do that. And there's a reason there's all these wild health benefits that come out of cold water, and it's because it would have been a huge part of our lives. But now we live in these comfortable, centrally heated houses. Well, maybe a bit less centrally heated this winter.
Yeah.
But we're not uncomfortable. We don't feel, and there's so much value out of that discomfort. It brings you into the present. The river is like the most amazing barometer for where you are.
Yeah.
So you get in, and you're just in tune with your body straight away, and you go, oh, I'm tired, oh, I'm stressed, oh, this is where I am. And you just, it's like a sort of mental health temperature check and physical, and you can't hide from where you are in that moment. And that's one of the things I love about it, is it brings me back into my body and where I am. And I go, yeah, you didn't sleep so well, not too many minutes in today. It just, you can't hide from it. I love that. There's not enough of that in life.
That's very powerful. And I use breath work in that way, and I use breath work with clients in that way, because it really helps you tap into your intuition, because it's the same, not the same kind of thing, but it's different, but you're just connecting with your body and yourself and your physicality and your emotions, and that's pretty much it. So there's not all of this distraction and crap going on around you. You're just with yourself. And I guess, we're 70% water anyway. That's why we love water so much. Like, I don't like getting in water so much, but I absolutely crave being near it. Like, I live 2 minutes from the sea. I love the sun and being by the sea and on a beach. I walk up and down that beach every day. I fucking love it. I'm not a fan of getting in it, but unless it's warm and it's Ibiza in August. So it's like, but it's really interesting that you say that it gives you that. Maybe I'll ask some other people what benefits and how they feel about getting into cold water, and if it gives them the same kind of sensation and feeling, because I get loads of clients come to me. It's like, I don't know. I'm not connected to myself. I don't. Is this my life? What is the point of it? Who am I? Like, they don't know how to access that stuff for themselves, or because one of the things I always ask people to do on a daily basis is check in with themselves, and they don't even know how to do that. But for you, that sounds like that's your check in with yourself, like get in the river, and then you're like, okay, I can hear me.
This is where I am. So I was chatting with a client the other day who is a coach and a psychologist and a friend, really good friend, and we were saying about checking in with yourself, and that thing where we struggle to go, where's the line? do I need to rest or do I need to push myself? And we're constantly walking along that line going, is this a rest thing, or is this a you need to motivate yourself thing? And she goes, the reason why we don't know how to do that, and we question ourselves and overthink it. And I was like, no. And she said, because of our childhoods, because all that stuff around who knows you best, who knows what's best for your body, that agency was taken away from us. Generationally, that's how parenting was. And I was like, oh. And it's little things like eating. My little one, he goes, Mummy, I've finished. And I go, is your tummy full? And he goes, yeah. And I go, okay, just so you know, there's no more food now until tomorrow, for example, if it's dinner. But the agency is with him. I trust him to tell me. He knows his body best.
Yeah.
And it's all these little ways. Do you need a wee? Well, you should probably go for one. It's all these tiny ways that parents erode accidentally, innocently, because we didn't know any better, that they erode that trust in yourself. Consent, if he goes, I never very rarely hug him without checking in first. Do you want a hug? Would you like a cuddle? Or I'd like to give you a cuddle. Would you like one? And if he says no, I don't. It's all these tiny little insidious ways. And I'm like, oh, of course. That auntie that comes in and gives you a massive smacker on the lips that you didn't want. We know now that that's not okay, because it's the message it sends.
Yeah.
Cumulatively over time, all these tiny little things build up, and I go, oh, that's why we're not in touch with our bodies. I get it now.
Wow. And has all of those changes with how you're parenting your son, has that come off the back of some of this stuff of understanding yourself better, or is that just with parenting and advice and stuff?
Yeah. He's been the biggest mirror, and also then just how do you raise a decent human being? Is kind of going, oh, okay, well, there's brand new information about that. And then it helps me make sense of why I struggle with some of these things. And then I see it in him and I go, it's all there in the beginning. Children are kind of born inherently knowing everything. And then we just chip away and erode things that were there in the first place. So I'm more in this place of trying to protect what's already there rather than teach him things he doesn't already know.
Oh,
he's the best teacher. He knows it all already. And I'm just going, oh, that thing where you tuned in with what you need. How do I do that? Oh, I need to unlearn something.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much we need to unlearn. I love all of that. I love how you're parenting your son as well. That's amazing. How do you think all of this has, in terms of obviously, so your relationship with yourself is much better, getting in the river is helping that, and all of these other bits and pieces, the dopamine fixes, altering all of that, now obviously that's impacting how you parent. How about in terms of work? Because your work is great and you're flying in business and that. Has it really, do you think some of this, the relationship you have with yourself, the ADHD stuff, has that transformed your business? Has it transformed how you work and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it has. I think that's the reason this has been my best year yet, because I think when you fully embrace who you are and you don't apologize for it anymore, that's what people are attracted to, because they want to do that too. I didn't set out to create a personal brand this year, but it's what I've done. And it's become a really strong one, and people attach certain things to me. And and I think it's just having that confidence to be not in a I am how I am, and if you don't like it you can fuck off, not like that, but just in a this is me. And like Marmite, you'll either go, I want some of that, or I don't. And if you don't, I wish you well, but I don't, we don't need to waste each other's time. So creating a strong personal brand and standing for things and not being afraid to stand for things and call people out and have an opinion. It does a great filtering job. And then I only end up connecting with people who share the same values. And anyone who mansplains or is not inclusive just gets unfollowed.
Brilliant. But it's
See you
that,
later.
I'm sensing that self-acceptance, like,
Yeah.
you accepting, you've come to a greater level of understanding of who you are and how you function, and fully embracing that and accepting that and learning to understand yourself and then putting that out into the world. Self-acceptance, again, you can think, oh, it's a bit wanky, it's a bit fucking personal development, but
Yeah.
but it's, so many of us don't accept
It's
ourselves.
real.
Yeah, that's why we're all walking down the middle fucking line without an opinion, people pleasing, because we
Yeah.
don't have the self-acceptance that, we're
Yeah.
enough, good enough as we are. And, there, yeah, and like, this is me, and I'm okay with that, and I'm going to put that in the world. Not everyone's going to like me. It's impossible to do that, and it's impossible for me to do that. And I've found, and I continue to do it, but I have found that's, for me, taking responsibility for myself and having the accountability for myself, and really just working on accepting me as I am, like impatient, a bit scatterbrained, a bit random.
Yeah.
I show up, and maybe some people think I overshare. Too fucking bad. I like sharing, and it's what I do. And just being okay with all of that, that has massively, massively helped. I still have to do it. Some days I still get a bit twitchy and I forget my boundaries and all of that.
Yeah. It's an ongoing practice, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
And I think it's also in that self-acceptance, there's an acceptance of or a letting go of having to pigeonhole myself.
Mm,
I am a mentor, a coach, a hands-on marketing person, a strategist, a copywriter, a creative.
mm,
Um, I can do video editing and podcast editing and design and all of these things. And actually, like, it's letting go of the need to put that in a box so
mm,
that people can understand it, and going, the first thing you connect with is me. You buy me, and then I'll show you the different ways in which I can help you. But
yeah,
the message is, you know, this is who I am and what I stand for. And if you feel similarly and you're struggling to, find the message that you need to
yeah,
communicate who you are, then I can help you. But um, I meet so many people who tie themselves with knots in, well, I'm a coach over here, and then I'm a VA over here, and then I also do a little bit of this over here. And how do I market that? And I'm like, just by being yourself. That's
yeah,
your best marketing strategy, is just to be you. And you attract like-minded people. Most people get on a call with me and they go, I feel like I know you already from your marketing. And I'm not really sure what you do, but I feel like you can help me. And that's
yeah,
what I want to hear, because
yeah.
I've done the hardest part, which is create the relationship and the connection already.
And you
And
filtered
then,
out all of the crap in the
yeah,
beginning. It's like when we get in relationships, and I'm talking about romantic relationships, intimate relationships, but in the beginning we show up, don't we? We have all of this fucking, well, I've got to be a certain way, dress a certain way,
yeah,
airs and graces, and don't fart in the first fucking all of that shit.
yeah.
But it's bullshit, because we're not being ourselves, and then someone's falling in love or attracted to a version of us that actually doesn't fucking exist most of the time.
And
And it's
it's exactly that way in business,
yeah,
exactly that way. I
same.
always say to people, who's your ideal client? And they start off on something, and I go, no, who do you love working with?
Yeah,
Who feels like your new best friend,
yeah,
where you have this amazing connection and you do your best work?
yeah,
And guess what? They're probably you 3 or 5 years ago.
yeah,
Let's tap into that. It's not because those red flags, even if you can't put your finger on it when you first meet someone, they're real, because those are the people that will give you a bad review, or who will ghost you, or not pay your invoices, or
yeah,
require to ask too many questions. Or you've got to really trust your gut in business, which is not what people, especially when you start out. So many people are like, I'll just work with anyone. Like, literally the worst advice ever.
yes, same. I've had
Because
that.
some of those people will be dicks, and yes, you will learn something from it, but it can be really unpleasant and
And
really
that's,
soul destroying.
oh, it can, and that's like doing that bit about understanding yourself and accepting yourself, and then creating those boundaries. And it's like, and boundaries come into play there. And I've massively done it with my coaching and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, no, I'm not going there.
It's
Um,
okay to say no.
exactly, and it's and we need to learn that more just in general life. And I
Yeah.
think doing the work of self and the self-awareness and all of that, and trying to, I always use the word curiosity a lot with clients and with myself, and just get curious about why you're doing this. Just ask yourself some curiosity seeking questions, and ask that of others as well. And let's just get more curious with ourselves and other people, and I think that massively can help you in life. And then it helps you figure yourself out, and helps you fix some boundaries in place that you're not willing to go to or cross the line of. So yeah. Woo! Wow, that was a quick 40 minutes. We are pretty much out of time, and I'm trying to keep these podcasts to 40 minutes if I can. I always end on just a couple of really quick random questions to get to know, because you're a very funny lady. Like I know I like your post, that your humor. I like your sense of humor, and I like humor. So these are just a little bit of fun. So the first question is, if you're okay to answer them, you all right with that? There's nothing naughty, don't worry.
Go for it.
If you could only, this is my favorite question of all, I ask everyone this question. If you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, it's a drum and bass tune called Tuning.
Tuning.
And it's some tuning.
Right.
I think it's by like DK. And it samples Kiefer Sutherland from a sci-fi film.
Wow.
And it just is so dark.
I knew it was going to be dark.
It makes me feel slightly uncomfortable, but there's just something I love about it. It's like I step into another world.
Wow. Okay.
It transports me. It's wild.
Yeah. I'm going to make a playlist of everybody's tunes, and it's been some right random ones. So,
but it's like a proper Windows down, system up.
I like those. I love it. Like a bit of drum and bass. One book that some people find this question hard, but one book you would recommend everybody reads?
Oh, well, at least the first one of the Farseer trilogies.
The what trilogies?
Farseer, as in to be able to see far.
Okay.
If you like all the elements of Game of Thrones, but you want a better story, you want to stick with one character, and you want something that's really going to move you, Robin Hobb's Farseer trilogies. Like, I look at Game of Thrones and I'm like, nah, not a patch on it. Even George R.R. Martin on the first, I think it's the first of Robin Hobb's books, he's like the greatest writer of all our time. So there you go. He knows. Okay. But not many people know about them. But they've got, mythical legends, magic, weird inexplicable stuff, beast magic, like all, like a general sort of medieval sense, but just way better. I'm rereading them at the moment.
Wow, that's good.
Because I just love them so much.
Yeah, it must be good. Favorite movie?
I struggle with films because I don't remember them.
Wow, okay.
But maybe we'll go for a seasonal one.
Yeah, let's do that.
I recommend everyone watch Bad Santa.
Fucking love all those. I love Bad Santa, Bad Moms at Christmas.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites. But I do like a bit of from the Grinch as well. So I'm not gonna lie.
Bad Santa is just we watch them every year because
it surprised me that you've picked that.
It's just and that's when me and my husband picked up the phrase "the fuck."
The fuck. We love a good swear, don't we, as well?
So funny.
Brilliant. Okay, let's leave it there. Thank you so much, Siobhan. It's been a really, really nice to have you on here, and for you to be really open and honest about what's happened with you and your ADHD, and sharing some of that insight. If anybody who's listening wants to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, take a listen to my podcast.
Okay.
Blatant plug, the Unconventional Business Podcast.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff, lots of golden nuggets over there. Or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm there usually every day, sharing whatever pops into my brain.
You are indeed, and you're doing it very well. I'm very
eloquent. Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for being on here today. It's been a real joy.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome.